I got off the plane and I felt this pull that I didn't realize I was missing before, and it was home. And if I hadn't physically gone, I never would have felt it, and I never would have known the difference. I just would have always known things were a little blander than they could have been. And I've never been able to shake it. You know, I would walk down the street and smell something that would remind me of Israel, and I would burst into tears. It was that strong. I was at camp in upstate New York, which, again, New York has probably the biggest Jewish population outside of Israel. And there was a girl there who, when she met me, we were talking, I mentioned I was Jewish, and her eyes got wide. And she looked scared for a minute, and then she goes, well, is it true? I said, what, that I'm Jewish? Yeah. She goes, no, that you have horns. Now, I had never in my life heard of this. Later, I did research, and I realized that was actually a thing from the Middle Ages. But I laughed. I said, what? She said, well, you know, I mean, because we were always taught in my school, everyone's taught that Jews have horns, and that's why the men wear those beanies on their heads, and that's why women cover their hair. And, you know, they file them down when they're kids so no one will notice. And so I bent my head down. I said, check. Really, just check through my hair and tell me if you see or feel anything that feels like a horn to you. And she did, you know, because I offered. And she stepped back and she just looked shaken to her core that this wasn't true, because she had learned so many things about Jews that now she had to question. And the thing that really frightened me about this is that I was about middle school age by then, and I was old enough to realize that if this was being taught in a school, that everyone in her little town believed this, that it couldn't possibly be an isolated incident. And I said it as a child, I'll say it now. In my lifetime, I do believe that we're going to see things really come to head. I think that we're going to see much larger, much more obvious signs of anti-Semitism. It's going to become not only acceptable, but chic to do. Very much in the way it was chic to be, you know, racist against black people in America way back when. This is going to come around too. And it's already in Europe very much the case. So if Europe is doing it, you know, America's never far behind. And if Europe and America do it, there's really nowhere. Australia's getting on board too. There's really nowhere we're going to go, you know, like we've got to go home. And I hear people say, well, oh, but Israel's to this, or it's not enough of that. And I say, well, then come home and make it what you want it to be. Don't stay somewhere because it's comfortable. I know America, we make a lot more money there. I get that. And I get that we like our luxuries. Comfortable is not the same as living. And if you're not living and pushing for something and fighting to make our homeland better, then what are you doing? There are massive Anglo communities, English-speaking communities in Israel that are willing to help people. You know, everyone knows everyone kind of thing, and they'll do what they can to help you. I know there are people who go and they struggle and they go back. I get that. I hear the stories all the time. For that to be a reason to not try is something I can't accept. And it's not about me. And Aliyah is never about you. It's always about your children and your grandchildren. And think about how many generations down the line you're affecting. It's going to be rough for you, probably, sure. You know, when my great-grandmother came over from Poland, you know, in the middle of the war to the United States and didn't speak any English, it was really rough on her. And she didn't have all the help that the Israeli government gives for money and Nefesh B'Nefesh does in grants and other kinds of help. She had nothing. So if she could do it to come here, I can certainly do it to go home for my kids. I was raised very much not religious. We fasted on Yom Kippur. We had a Seder at my family member's house for Pesach. I think we did something for Rosh Shoshana, maybe. We weren't associated with any particular synagogue, but my mother was very much of the mind that we're Jewish, you need to know we're Jewish, and that's important. She didn't marry Jewish, but she wanted us to know we were Jewish. In the past year or so, you know, I just kept at it. I kept showing her real estate listings of the place we're going to live in, saying, hey, it's not expensive like that everywhere. You know, Jerusalem and Tel Aviv are only 2 parts of the entire country, and showing her some of the benefits on a practical level, the health benefits and some of the other things that are offered to people, the incentives to make Aliyah, and especially someone who is, you know, in their 50s or their 60s, all the things that are available to them and the groups that help them And she started kind of going, okay, I can see how I'm going to have more of a future there than I will here. Because in America, healthcare alone, it's through the roof. And the whole Obamacare thing doesn't help a lot of people. And in fact, some people it hurt. But privatized medicine is so expensive. Even if you go to a public hospital, I had to go to one last year, and I saw what the gross bill was. It was over $17,000. I was in the ER for 3 hours. It's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. The worst possible scenario for staying in the United States. Let's say you choose to stay, and things continue going as they have been, and they've been growing exponentially, so they get worse faster now. Worst case scenario, you stay where you are, you're in your comfortable job. Worst would be your boss finds a reason for you to not be in that comfortable job anymore because anti-Semitism is just growing. And then you lose that comfortable house you're in. Even if you own it, maybe being in the neighborhood isn't so comfortable anymore. Or you're in a Jewish neighborhood and everything around it is not so comfortable. Like the city starts coming after you for things that happened to my synagogue, for things that they're not going in for after for anyone else. Or, and let's say that. So now you lost your job. Let's say you own your house, but you're not comfortable where you live anymore. And then you're not comfortable really walking alone at night. And then you're not so comfortable walking alone during the day because one just follows the other. And eventually, the worst case scenario is you get to a point where it's more like a rescue situation, like it is in France. Those Jews in France have plenty of money. We're doing very well. And Israel had to send planes to rescue them. It was so bad. That's the worst case scenario for America. Worst case scenario in Israel, you go there, you sold everything, brought what you could, and you land in a city and your neighborhood, your city, whatever it is, it doesn't work for you. You just hate it. You hate the neighbors. You say, well, maybe I need to move back. And to that I say, well, maybe you just need to try another neighborhood. Worst case scenario, you're still trying to find a job after the government assistance called the Post Aliyah runs out after 6 months, in which case they have special unemployment and other things. So you tighten your belt and you live really, really meager. Maybe you even have to ask people for financial help. And that's not easy and it sucks. But the thing is, most of us who've lived longer than, 20 years have also been through that anyway at some point in their lives. So the question is, would you rather be in that situation temporarily in the place where you've got an army fighting for you or in a place where the guy next door could hate you and you don't know it until something happens, something irreversible happens? So we have some really good reasons for leaving, much better than some comfortable reasons for staying.